Yes, you. You bring people together. You build your team. This is the leader in you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Young Leader Award Ceremony 2021. My name is Glenda, and I am excited to be hosting this event with all of you here today. Now, with this event, Halogen Foundation is running its first ever hybrid award ceremony. As Singapore moves into a transition phase, we have begun having small numbers of live audiences here on site, while also live streaming the event online. So for those of you joining us via YouTube Live, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you are comfortable for the next 2 hours. Now, before we kick off this event proper, it is my great pleasure to welcome into the auditorium our guest of honor, Deputy Prime Minister and Coordinating Minister for Economic Policies, Mr. Heng Swee Keat. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and NYLA finalists, welcome to the National Young Leader Award Ceremony 2021. Once again, my name is Glenda, and I will be your host for this momentous occasion, streaming in live with a small studio audience here in the heart of Orchard Road. The National Young Leader Award, or NYLA for short, was launched to recognize leaders who are involved, engaging, and have deep conviction for their own causes. Now, amidst all the events that have happened in the past couple of years, our 10 young leaders have emerged and shown great resilience in serving the needs of their community while also balancing rigorous academic achievements. Since they started their NYLA journey last year or earlier this year, they've taken on multiple challenges and overcame them with poise, creating a brand new idea that would serve a real societal need, or even spreading their leadership philosophy through an Instagram takeover. So today, we will be recognizing the 5 winners of the award and celebrating the achievements of all our finalists. To open the event, I would like to welcome on stage our guest of honor, DPM Heng, to give an opening address. DPM Heng, please.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to everyone. 8 years ago, I was given the honor of launching Halogen Foundation's inaugural National Young Leaders Award. I was the Minister for Education then. I think some of you were probably in primary school. And Halogen Foundation's mission to empower youth resonated strongly with me. I'm glad to see the Halogen Foundation and this award have grown from strength to strength. Over the years, the award has developed more than 4,700 young leaders and showcased 49 finalists. These young leaders were given the opportunity to enhance their communication and leadership skills, network with leaders and mentors, and receive support in accelerating their social impact projects. As we begin a new decade, I'm pleased to join you this morning to confer the National Young Leader Award for 2021. We are more than 20 months into living under the shadows of COVID-19. The pandemic has disrupted lives and livelihoods all around the world. In many societies, youths have borne the brunt of this crisis. Their education has been affected, and many are unable to find jobs. There are some who even speak of a lost generation of youths. Here in Singapore, instead of letting COVID-19 define their generation, our youths are determining their own paths and redefining the crisis. every generation will face crisis. Each generation will be tested. What defines each generation is how they respond. We cannot deny the pandemic has been a setback for our youth and some of their plans. But instead of feeling dejected, our youths have responded with resilience and fortitude. Many have adapted and adjusted their plans. More importantly, they have also reached out to those around them who face even greater adversity. The pandemic has brought out the best in our youth. This has affirmed my long-held conviction that our youths have what it takes to succeed and thrive. They have the gumption to pursue what they feel passionate for and what they believe in. My interactions with our youths have not squared well with the label sometimes given to them, such as strawberry generation. These are unfair caricatures, and I'm glad that the pandemic has put many of these labels to rest. I'm often struck by our youth's strong desire to bring about positive change. They speak passionately about building a more inclusive society, protecting the environment, enhancing mental wellness, and many other issues close to their hearts. And I could feel this zest for the community and the desire to make a difference even more strongly during COVID-19. Just as important, many of them have asked themselves a simple but powerful question. What is it that I can personally do to make a difference? Today, we recognize some of these young leaders who have answered this question through their actions. We celebrate the 10 finalists of the Halogen Foundation's National Young Leader Award. After today, all 10 of them will be welcomed into the Halogen Young Leader Fellowship. This fellowship provides a community that will support their projects and aspirations. I'm amazed by how much they have done, given that all of them are still pursuing secondary or post-secondary education. In fact, none of them have quite reached adulthood. Despite their young age, they are leaders who have displayed deep conviction in their actions. Their projects span a wide range of areas. These include areas like digital inclusivity, educational access for the less privileged, providing meals for the disadvantaged, enhancing mental wellness, environmental sustainability, and so on. The common thread that runs through all these projects is that the students have gone beyond talking the talk. All of you have walked the talk, taking a step forward to make a real difference. So congratulations to all of you. Beyond these awards, I'm also glad that Halogen Foundation is providing a community of support and guidance to the youth in making a positive change. As we are gathered here today in the shadows of COVID-19, it is in similar circumstances that Halogen Foundation was founded. You started 18 years ago in a year we experienced SARS. And I was told that you almost went under during H1N1. You have grown your base of volunteers, supporters, and donors over the years. And I'm glad that you're weathering this crisis better than the previous ones. As you grew, you have also expanded your range of programs. Your work now includes leadership, entrepreneurship, and mentorship. You reach out not only to youths, but also to parents, educators, adult volunteers, and mentors. And I'm happy to see many parents here. Since your inception in 2003, your work has impacted more than 177,000 youths. You have also mobilized the youth community, close to 700 volunteers in the last year alone. Well done to the Halogen team. May you keep up your good work. I hope that the awards today will inspire even more of our youth to step forward, to drive positive change in the community. There are many opportunities for those who wish to give back here at Halogen Foundation and beyond. You can also start something new. It is this strong desire to take action and build a better Singapore that inspired me to start the Singapore Together movement 2 years ago. I'm glad that the spirit of collaboration and giving back has gained momentum during the pandemic. So I encourage more to step forward in partnership to create a shared future together. So in conclusion, let me once again congratulate all our finalists and Halogen Foundation on your great work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DPM Heng. Indeed, we can all create a shared future and build a better Singapore together. And what better way to be inspired by the future than by hearing from our young leaders, our future movers and shakers, on how they perceive leadership and what their personal stories of leadership are. 2 weeks ago, we brought our NYLA finalists together for a discussion on leadership. These panel discussions were moderated by Ms. Sherry Singh, an editor with The Birthday Collective, and we filmed in line with the IMDA guidelines and safety precautions. I invite you to sit back, grab a snack, and be inspired by our youth leaders. Enjoy.
Foundation National Young Leader Award 2021. My name is Sharif with the Birthday Collective. Thank you for joining us today. I have with me 4 of our 10 finalists, and I'm going to get them to introduce themselves to you. They are amazing, not just as human beings, but the work that they do is tremendous. So I'm really excited to share them all with you. We're going to start with this young lady on the left.
Hello everyone, I am Rian and I'm 16 years old. I'm the head prefect at Paya Lebar Methodist Girls' School Secondary. And I'm someone who loves stories. I believe that everyone has something valuable to take away from listening to someone else's stories. And recently, something that I've been really passionate about is mental wellness and mental health. And so I've been working on this project called Kakilang, which is dialect for people of our own. And basically, we are creating this project and working on this project to bridge generational gaps and also to build a community around the elderly so that they are able to have better mental wellness because they feel a sense of belonging in these communities built around them, and that through that they will be able to live their golden years with more happiness and without the feeling of isolation from others. Yeah.
And we have on my left.
Hi everyone, I'm Yun Chen. I'm also 16 and like Rian, I am the head prefect in Methodist Girls' School. I think to me in my leadership journey, what really matters to me is the people that I serve. So I would like to use the 2 words, people-oriented, to describe my leadership style. And I think because of that, I have also tried to reach out to many different groups in Singapore, and I think one of the groups that I'm really, really passionate about is multiple sclerosis patients. And that is the reason why I started Project Apathy 2 years ago. And it's a self-initiated values in action project that helps multiple sclerosis patients to raise funds and also raise awareness for them. I think that's really important because when we first started this project, we found that not many people in Singapore knew about multiple sclerosis. And we want to, through this project, we want to raise even more awareness for them such that more Singaporeans would know about this cause. Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the other half of my panel, I have Nazra.
Hi, my name is Nazra. I'm 18 this year and a student of Catholic Junior College. I serve as the president of the choir in my school, and with that, I lead my team of choristers to make the best and most well-sounding music possible. In 2020, I founded a non-profit organization known as Shareducation, and what we do is we provide academic assistance to students who have no access to tuition or any sort of academic consultation due to financial difficulties. So what we do is we really, really reach out to them and we help to bridge the gap between the students who have the upper hand in having tuition and the students who don't really have that and feel demoralized and beaten down by the education system that we have in Singapore. The reality of the situation is that the education system in Singapore is hyper competitive, and in doing so, we hope to empower these youths and young people to really take charge of their learning and move forward, be bolder, and at some point with all this help they have received, we hope that they will go forward and do the same and help other people as well.
All right. And the only gentleman on our panel.
Okay, hi guys, I'm Kai Jin. I'm 18 this year, studying in ACS International. I served as the Interact Club president last year, where I led a project called Migrant Outreach Project. Last year was an especially difficult year for migrant workers due to the dormitory lockdown, where many of them were feeling, because the COVID situation in the dorms were quite critical, many of them felt fearful for their own lives, as well as their family members back in their hometowns. And as a result, they were really fearful. And also the fact that under dormitory lockdown, they were unable to go out to the community and interact. So they were feeling more than ever isolated and fearful. So my team and I wanted to try to bring some joy to them in such trying times by packing care packages for them. And yeah, we received a lot of good feedback from the migrant workers, and it was really heartwarming to see the photos of them carrying our care packages. And perhaps what was most touching to me was the fact that they were really appreciative of the handwritten cards that our students had written. And yeah, this project really allowed me to help build a more inclusive society where everyone is seen as equal. And apart from that, I'm also a volunteer with Red Cross as a first aider. And every Saturday, I lead a team at East Coast Park to provide first aid for park goers.
I love that all of you guys have done so much in the field of leadership at such a young age. It's really quite inspiring. It's quite tremendous. I don't know if I was doing quite as many things at 16 and 17 or 18. But what made you guys feel like you were willing to take that first step? Was it a person? Who are the unsung heroes in your life or leaders in your life that have made you decide, to take this step of leadership? Anybody?
I think that I always felt that at a young age, I felt I was very called to lead because I enjoyed just gathering people together and then we moved towards the same goal together. And I always thought that, I found joy in doing that. And so when I found something that I'm passionate about, like for example mental wellness, it really made me think that there are many people who are passionate about the same cause. There are many people who feel the same way about wanting to make a change, wanting to be the difference, and wanting to make the lives of others better. And so I think that really encouraged me to be like, okay, people have the same views as me and have the same passion, so let's do it together. Let's tackle this cause together.
Anybody else?
I completely agree, actually, Rian. I think for me personally, coupled with listening to other people's stories and inspirations, how they want to move forward and create change for a particular group in our society and community. Coupled with that, I think it was more of a personal experience for me. So in starting Sheducation, I encounter a lot of students who come from single-parent homes, and I grew up in a single-parent home. It was a huge challenge for me, actually, and when I meet these students, when I meet their parents, I'm then reminded of the power I have to change their lives, because I've been in that situation before, and I know that at some point it becomes debilitating, and just helping and just knowing that I can create that change, that's really what spurs me on. And meeting other people that really echo with my cause and want to create that change as well, that is truly, truly rewarding.
Okay. I also completely agree with Rayan and Nasra, and I think that the role of the leader is to have a strong sense of vision and want to lead a team into in acting on this shared vision. And for me, it was also a personal story. When last year I had a family member who was very sick, and at that point of time, things were just really difficult for me. But through that all, I had a lot of friends and family members in my vulnerable state who just sat next to me, and I realized that just such simple actions like sitting next to people or baking a cake can mean a lot to someone when in their vulnerable state. And as such, I also love to lead because I want to help people in their vulnerable state, and maybe by doing so, help them tide through.
Yeah, I think actually mine, I was actually inspired by my sister.
Nice.
Because to me, my older sister had always been the one who was like a role model to me, like ever since young. And, she would come back home from school, and she was a prefect then, and I would look at her and I would be like, wow, that's so cool, and I want to be like her too. And that's partly the reason why I started on my leadership journey. And as a leader, I've found so much joy in leading and serving, and I've found how meaningful leadership can be. And that's why I think I have come to where I am today, just because of that admiration for my sister and her being an inspiration to me. And I think that's really what brought me to who I am today. And that has gotten me to think about so much more that I can achieve. And as a leader, what I can do to impact the community that we are in and the community that we serve. Yeah, so that's why I began my leadership journey.
I think it's really wonderful, and you guys are now on the other end, right? You guys are finalists in this youth award, this Young Leaders Award, and there are all these young people, your peers, your juniors. They're going to be watching. They're all watching you now. And so, what's your advice actually to other young people who are your peers or younger than you, who are kind of inspired to lead, but they're kind of afraid? What would you say to them actually?
I think I would say, just be courageous, just do it, because I believe that everything happens for a reason. And no matter what happens in the end, whether you succeed or whether you might not make so much progress at the start, I think you eventually grow from it, especially the setbacks. And that's what's so meaningful about leadership in general, that you know that you have a chance to serve again, you have a chance to try again, and people would be grateful that you are trying, and no matter what happens, you'll be able to learn from this opportunity that you have. And I think that's the most important, to learn from it, grow from it, and do even better the next time, future times, yeah.
I absolutely love that, Yun Shen, because there are a lot of youth in our society, a lot of people with developing ideas. The reality is that millions of ideas are generated per second, probably, but only a select few, a pinch of those ideas are actually brought to reality and acted upon. So my advice to my juniors, to anyone who's watching this at all, is to be bold. Just be bold. When you believe in something, you put your heart and soul into it and you act upon it. Because that's how you're going to be a change maker. That's how you're going to be a leader. That's how you are going to make a positive impact and catalyze that big change that you want to see in society.
I would like to add that leadership is a journey, and not all the times people would agree with what you're thinking. But also there will be that instance where there are people that resonate with your same vision, and they would like to serve. And I think that you'll get a lot of support from them over time. And after all, leadership is indeed like a journey. So yeah, like if you don't make big changes, you can still learn from it.
Yeah, I think I really agree with all of them. I think that the advice that I would give is to just embrace the spontaneity, go for it, and you never know what change you could make. I think leadership may seem very intimidating to some people because they think it's always about the big things, the big projects, but I believe that everyone can be a leader in your own right, as long as you have, because everyone has influence. So I think that as long as you harness that and then you just go and do something that will positively impact those around you, I think that that's already worth trying.
So just to kind of wrap this part up, there's clearly been the A, B, C, D of leadership according to these four. A, act. B, be bold. C, have courage. And D, just do, right? Am I fair to say, you guys where you guys are at? You know, we like to talk about leadership and people doing things, right? And then every leader is like, oh, you did this wonderful thing. You're so awesome. But I think what people don't talk about in leadership is that all of us have made what I call leadership boo-boos, right? Things that we've kind of messed up in. You know, I'm going to have you guys kind of peel that back for us, right? Can you just share with us what is like maybe the biggest mess that you had? If you could do over something in your leadership journey, what would it be? What would you do over?
I'd like to answer this question first, actually, because my as much as I pride myself on being the founder of a nonprofit, I think my leadership starts in school. And in serving as the choir president within my school, that there were a lot of changes to be made, especially with the ever-evolving COVID situation. So last year, what we had to do was group the choir into groups of 5. And from there, that's where we practice and develop ourselves in our musicality. The problem is, me as a leader, I found it very hard to divide and conquer. So I felt like it was all on me to, divide the groups, come up with the parts that everyone is singing. So it was a huge pressure being placed on me. And I didn't realize that I actually had a huge team with me that could actually help me out and, help me implement all these things that I wanted to implement. So if I could have a do-over on this, it would definitely be making use of all the resources I had and leveraging on each and every one of the strengths of the people that I lead in piecing all the pieces together to create a more smoother, bigger picture in that sense.
Can I also add that, like you, one of my biggest challenge in my leadership journey actually arose because of COVID. Because being the president of the Interact Club, only being appointed last year, and then COVID happening, our school's Interact Club is actually the biggest CCA in our school with over 122 members. So it was really difficult to plan any event like service project that you can't go out to the community and you have to maintain social distancing measures with 122 people. It was just really difficult. And I think, so I was very fortunate to have a very good team to lead, to launch this project called Self-Initiated Service Project, where we allow our students to lead their own projects in separate groups. And then we will go and try, as an Interact Club, they can ask people to join their projects so they can be their own leaders. But I think this was very popular in our school and a lot of people wanted to be their own leader, and me and my team also wanted to let them have a chance to lead. But we ended up choosing too many projects. We shortlisted 13 projects, and it was just really difficult and chaotic to manage 13 projects simultaneously. And yeah, I have to say I'm very lucky to have an excellent EXCO team with me in the Interact Club. But if I could turn back time, maybe I would have narrowed down the better projects that in a more focused way. Yeah.
All right, on this side, biggest do-over.
I think my leadership journey, if it was a book, I would have many tabs of just mistakes that I've made. And I'm
All of
sure-
us too, all of us too.
Yeah, so, but maybe it's not just the big mistakes. I remember there's this mistake that my team and I made, and we still talk about it and look back on it fondly, actually, because it makes us laugh all the time. But it's something that we often overlook, so I think that it really helped us a lot in learning how to be better. So there was one time we had to organize this bonding session with the entire student leader body. And we told ourselves, okay, we'll meet in the morning to prepare everything. And then, okay, so we have to prepare, because it was in the morning, it was breakfast, so we had to prepare packet Milo for everybody. So in our heads, packet Milo is the Tetra box with a straw. But the one, my EXCO member, who was in charge of buying this packs of Milo, she actually bought the sachet. The powdered Milo. Yeah, so that was when we saw, we were just stunned. We were like, wow, okay, so what do we do now? And at that time, we just had to think on the spot and then think of what we had to do from here. How do we still distribute this to everyone and then still have them be able to enjoy this bonding session and this breakfast without the convenience of Tetra Pak? So I think it really reminded me that we should not overlook the small things, and it's never too bad to be more careful or more meticulous in checking all these details. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Actually, I would have liked the sachets, actually. Sachets look quite yummy. Okay.
I think for
Yinshan.
me, it would be my mentorship journey. So I mentor the prefects in the prefectorial board, right? My juniors. So I've always been the one to try my best to do things, right? But in the midst of everything, in the midst of busyness, sometimes we leave out some things.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that I have left out. Yeah. So I remember it was around the start of this year, the end of last year. So I had been tasked to mentor my juniors for orientation. And orientation is such a big thing because it's for all the Sec 1s, the new Sec 1s who are coming to our school the following year. And I think that something that I had overlooked was the mentorship of my juniors who were planning orientation. And so when orientation came, everyone was so busy. We had so many things to do, right? And that kind of made us really scared, really stressed. We didn't know what to do sometimes. And my juniors, who had even less experience than me, they were panicking. They were like, what do I do? What do I do, right? And in the end, we felt a bit disappointed with the end result. So when I saw my juniors, looking so disappointed, saying, oh, I should have done a better job, that was when I felt like, oh, I should have done a better job. Yeah, and that's something that I have really learned and grown from. I would never forget what happened, and I'll continue to work on it. Yeah, and I think that's something that I would redo if I had the chance.
So we have, A, B, C, D, right? Act, be bold, have courage, just do. And then now after this, we have empower others. We have focus on what really matters, focus on the small things. And finally, clearly with all of you guys, you just go with the flow, right? G for go with the flow. I think in leadership, being flexible and adaptable is one of the core tenets of what makes a leader a leader. What has been the biggest challenge in this last year of the pandemic that you guys, as in your work that you do, have had to navigate? What is the biggest challenge that this pandemic has thrown at you that you've had to navigate in your work?
I think I can go first. I think that probably the biggest challenge, I think everybody can relate with this, is that the pandemic itself has caused us to have to work within these boundaries, work within these restrictions. And so I think that put us in a really tough position because we had to work with the updates, the constant updates, and of how many packs could we have in one gathering, and also what are the rules that we have to stick by. So in the planning of many events with my team, it was really hard because once we planned this specific way of doing things, we had to change it according to the next updates. And so yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge, but it also taught us a lot about how to work on the spot and also how to just adapt to whatever changes are around us. And I think that in itself makes this year or the past year a very valuable experience for all of us. And I think the learning is just so valuable from a tough situation like this. So,
Exactly, Ryan. I was just thinking of that. Building upon the story that I shared before on being the choir president and having to navigate such tough times during the pandemic, I think the essence of a choir is, singing in a room together. You have a big group of people and you just witness the camaraderie of everyone just enjoying themselves and making music. But because of the pandemic and the challenges that it's posed for the choir, it was extremely hard for us to navigate that because firstly, we had to divide everyone. So then the resonance that you hear from everyone singing in a group together, that's gone. That's completely gone. And it was really heartbreaking because I've been singing since I was a little girl, and I've been in choir for now 6 years. So I've always loved that resonance, that sound that you hear in a big space with everyone. And with the pandemic, we couldn't do that at all. So the biggest challenge, I'd say, building upon the story that I shared before, was dividing everyone to adhere to the safe management measures that our school had set in place, and making sure that we could still preserve the little joys and the little essences of being a chorister, and that true meaning of making music with other people. And with the pandemic, it was extremely hard to navigate with them, but thankfully I had such a brilliant executive community committee, that worked with me. And for the first time, I'd say, after putting all that pressure on myself, I felt a bit less alone. And yes, that entire process, of planning and having to adhere to all these measures, it was extremely hard to work around. But I'd say that the most rewarding part was at the end, when we managed to hear our SYF recording, because that's what we were working towards. Hearing every single recording being pieced together into this beautiful tapestry of music in itself, it just reminded us that, hey, this is the music and this is what we've been wanting all along. So it was really rewarding just hearing our recording at the end, although that was a really challenging experience for us to work around, and tears were shed and all of that. It was a really stressful experience. It was very, very rewarding.
I mean, one of the things that we also know in this pandemic is that we have to just keep up. I mean, you guys talked about it, right? Staying agile and flexible. So Katrin, I want to ask you, how do we make room for continued learning as a leader? How do you make room for continually learning and upgrading yourself, just to keep up with all the crazy that's happening in the world?
I think you can never know anything. So just don't be complacent and always stay humble. No matter how much you think you know, always be ready to adapt to changes, and be reflective.
Yeah, for me, I think it's really about reflecting on your journey and growth so far. That's what really makes you find out more about yourself. That's what makes you learn and grow and find out where you can improve on, and that's where you can make an even greater change. And even though we might be busy as leaders, we have more things to do because of our leadership appointments. But really just take the time to sit down by yourself and think about what you've done on this day, on over the course of these few months, and see where you felt like you could have done a bit better. And it's always such small things that really make us, an even better leader. Yeah.
I think we always say leadership can be a very lonely journey, and you guys talked about it, right? Sometimes you have to make the decision. And I love what you guys shared about how, one of the big lessons you learn is leveraging on your team. And so I'm going to end with this last question. What is the best way that a leader can support another leader? What is the best way a leader can support another leader?
I think just to step in whenever you see that there needs, there's somewhere that you can step in. Sometimes as leaders, we are too busy and cooped up with too many things, and we might miss out something, and that's why we work together collectively and we work together as a team, because some of us see things that others don't, and some of us can do certain things, and some of us are not that good at certain things, and that's why we are always called together as a team. And I think that's really where we can work on, and that's how individual leaders like us can come together to work on a change and impact the lives of even more people.
Definitely. I think I really liked what you said about, leveraging on each other's passions and skill sets to really come together and create a bigger change collectively. And I think that's one of the key ways leaders in their true essence can support one another. It's leveraging on their strengths and what they really echo with and are passionate about. So yeah.
Yeah, and with that said, I think that I'm very thankful for Halogen Foundation, because they provided us with these opportunities where all the leaders can be cohesive with one another and interact with one another, which really gives us a way to support one another as leaders on our leadership journey.
I think hopping on to what they all have said, which are such good things. I love my team and the team I work with at school. So I think that I've really experienced firsthand the beauty and the joy in serving together with people who have the same goal, people who have the same passion towards what we're working with. So I think, yeah, it's really all about like supporting each other and being there for each other, and also encouraging each other. And my favorite, affirmation, because I think this is very important. A lot of times we just do things and I think it gets quite, you kind of feel that life gets mundane because you're doing the same thing and again. But I think having someone to affirm you and tell you that you've done a good job, or yeah, you've done your best. I think that that's important.
Yeah, and I think that's true because throughout the interview, I was looking at her and every word I say, she would nod, and that really affirms me. It really makes me feel good.
Like you're in a
Thank
safe space, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really, truly wonderful. Thank you guys very much for joining us today. Thank you our audience. Thank you to my panelists. We're going to wrap up our first panel and we're going to move on to the second panel after this. Thank you for joining us. And to all four of you, as part of my affirmation, I think it's wonderful, truly, the work that you guys do. I think it's tremendous how bold and how courageous you guys have been. And I think it's even, kudos to your team and your parents that you guys can still be one of those that can have your head in the cloud. Because sometimes the leader still has to dream, but you guys have your feet so firmly planted on the ground. It's tremendous, and it was my pleasure to have all of you with me today. Thank you guys very much. We'll catch you guys in the next panel. Thank you. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again in panel 2 of our leadership discussion with this year's finalists of the National Young Leaders Award from Halogen Foundation. We're going to start introducing them, starting on my right.
Hi everyone, I'm Eli, I'm 18, I'm from Catholic Junior College. I also served as the president of Student Council. Some of the things I care about are film and education. So because of that, I volunteer with the Singapore International Film Festival every year. And for education, I volunteered with a fellow finalist project, Shareducation, as well as doing volunteer tutoring within my school under a project called Stella Nova.
Hi guys, I'm Feline, I'm 18, I'm from Tampines Meridian Junior College, and I'm especially passionate about the elderly and as well as environmental sustainability. So for environmental sustainability, I'm also particularly into contact lens blisters recycling, and I also do this project called Kakilang with another friend.
All right, and on my left, we have...
Hi, I'm Javen. I'm 16 this year. I'm from Clemby Town Secondary School. Well, I believe that there's a lot of gaps, in society, and I would like to be the one, to fill these gaps. Yeah, so many people think that, you have to do big projects in order to be a great leader, but in fact, what they don't realize is that you just need to do, small, little things that can actually make an impact in other people's lives. So, for example, I regularly, try to go out into the Boon Lay community to, serve my elderlies, or even in school, try to give back to the migrant workers. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Megan and I'm currently 18 studying in Raffles Institution. So in school, I serve as the vice captain of my dragon boating team. So outside of school, I'm involved in mainly 2 projects. Firstly, Belanja Meal, which is a non-for-profit paid forward initiative. And secondly, Access, which is again non-for-profit non-academic opportunity which serves to elevate students from underprivileged backgrounds.
Okay, and finally we have...
I'm Nicole, I'm 16 this year and I'm currently studying Methodist Girls' School. I serve as the head of discipline in my school's prefectorial board. Outside of school, I'm very passionate about empowering children and about elevating their lives and ensuring that they have equal opportunities to various opportunities in society.
You guys talk about, passion and projects and, being day-to-day leaders. I mean, a lot of them who are watching today, the younger people, your peers, your friends, I think people have a desire, right, to make a difference and to do. But sometimes they feel, scared, they feel like unequipped. What would you say to them? What kind of advice would you give them, actually, to jumpstart their leadership journey?
I think personally, I would tell them that if there's no challenge, there's really no change that you can make. So as long as you're willing, and if you have a willing heart to do things for the community around you, I say go and chase that dream of yours and go out there and volunteer be it through volunteering, be it through serving, or any other ways that you feel that you can give back to society, I think we shouldn't be afraid and take the courage to give back.
What else?
I think it's also a lot about your deep passions and what you really stand by since young. And also, I think it's also very simple. You can look around you and see what kinds of issues that you see that affect the people that you care about. I think these are just simple ways that we can look into what we can do in terms of leadership.
Anybody else?
Well, I would just tell the younger generation to actually just take a leap of faith, because leadership itself it's actually a roller coaster ride. So there's your highs and lows, and all we need to do is to just take a leap of faith and just enjoy the process, because at the end of the day we will be making a change, and that is something that's inevitable. So just take it, just go for it.
I think this question is very, very dear to me, because I think that for leaders these days, all of us think that like charismatic, very confident leaders are the type of leaders that society looks towards. And because of that, like I get very cold and clammy in front of the camera, evidently. So because of that, I feel that I'm unable to be a good leader. But what I've learned throughout my leadership process, and especially through Halogen, is that leaders don't have to fit a certain type of stereotype that everyone thinks it is. Like as long as I truly believe that as long as you have the love for the cause that you're championing, then that makes you a very good leader already. You don't have to be confident, you don't have to be what everyone thinks you have to be.
I think what she was mentioning, I like that, because everyone has this concept and this archetype leader, and for a lot of us, and I mean, if you look at the 5 of them here, you guys, none of you fit a classic mold, right? In many ways, and you guys were sharing with me that there are all these aspects of your leadership journey that you feel, I guess, still inadequate about. Javon, you were telling me that leadership journey can be quite lonely. Can you just unpack that for us a little bit?
Well, I think something that many people think is that on the surface, leadership looks like it's very lonely. Like you have to make all the decisions by yourself. It seems as if like, oh, you are the for example, the overall in charge of this, and you have to make the decision for the team. For basically be the one that is guiding the team. But what they do not realize is what happens in the inside. So personally speaking, right, it may seem like a lonely journey. It may seem that at the end of the day, I may be required to make certain crucial decisions for the team. But at the end of the day, it's the process. It's the people around us that contributes to this. It's just a very subconscious thing, in my opinion. So, for example, in school, my friends of different batches, of different levels, they really motivate me, inspire me in many different ways. So I may seem like a more experienced leader in a sense, but they are the actual contributors to this. Yeah.
Anybody else want to add about what kind of qualities about loneliness in leadership that you guys have felt? Anybody else felt lonely?
I think I can add on to that. My teacher always told me that leadership is lonely at the top. It'll be lonely at the top. And truly, in various circumstances, I've actually realized that leadership is definitely lonely. Not only from the late nights where you spend doing up your project because you don't want to disturb your group mates and your teammates, but in many various circumstances where you are put into a position where your teammates are not put into. For example, you need to bridge the gap between those above you and those under you. And I think sometimes these circumstances can make you feel alone, because when you're a leader, it's hardly the case where you have someone alongside you in the exact same role as you. But I think when it comes to loneliness, something that can be done to cope with this loneliness is reflection. Reflection as to why we start what we do and why we want to do what we do. And I think something that can be brought into this is also being vulnerable to others around you. It doesn't mean that being a leader means you need to always keep your feelings to yourself. And I think we need to create safe spaces where we can share our feelings with others. And it's only when we share and be vulnerable that we feel empowered and we regain the confidence that we have again, and to go and strive as a leader.
So for starters, my rhythm is really bad to the point that the coach would be screaming at me at the top of a voice behind the boat, and I would get very scared, and it would mess up my rhythm even more. And when I was elected to become the vice captain, I was like, oh no, how am I able to push the team forward when I'm struggling to even keep up? But then what I realized was that the team selected me for a reason, and despite all the cons that I have, the team still selected me, and because of that, I shouldn't let this problem of my rhythm weigh me down. So, for example, for our internal competition, I was selected to be the pacer for our team. So for pacer, as a dragon boat in the dragon boat team, a pacer is the most the most important role because you have to set the pace for the team, and it's a high order because it's a tall order because I don't even have a sense of rhythm, right? But I think through hard work, through talking to my team, through communication, and through talking to my teachers, through raised visualization every single day, we were able to emerge first in the competition. So I think that whatever challenges that you might be facing now might seem very tall, might seem insurmountable, but in reality, you can do it as long as you take the first leap of faith, as what Javen said. Yeah.
Flynn, I want to ask you about your project, actually, because you have an oddly specific, but to me very, very interesting project on recycling contact lens blister packs. Can you just kind of share with how did that come about, and what made you decide that this was the thing you wanted to champion?
So contact lens blisters are not easily recycled because they are really small. So even if people put them in recycling bins, they don't eventually get recycled and end up being incinerated or end up on landfills. So this also harms the environment very much. So I found out about this contact lens startup in Singapore through Instagram, social media, and they actually have this project called Project 2x2, and it's very apt because we have two eyes, so it's also called 2x2, and they have this project to advocate about recycling of contact lens blisters, because they also provide contact lens and spectacles services. So what they do is they collect contact lens blisters from the public, and regardless of whatever brand that these contact lenses come from, they still support the collection of these contact lens blisters. And I think it's really good because they don't just think about how to make the business a profit-making organization, but also something that can help the society, help the environment.
So how did you get involved, and you wear glasses, right? So how did you get involved in this project?
So I wear glasses now, but I actually also wear contact lens, and I found out about this startup initially on Instagram, but also after that, eventually, I also found out that my CCA, Interact Club, also liaises with this company. And I thought it's a very good opportunity for me to advocate about environmental sustainability. So I use my platform, which is social media also, and I often post things on my Instagram stories, for example, to share about how important it is to recycle these contact lens blisters based on the reasons that I've stated earlier. And I also encourage other people to take up this role as someone who influences others to also care about the environment.
I love your sense of agency. I love that you took something as small and as innocuous as the blister pack and you made us realize that, sometimes small things can make big changes. I'm going to shift to you now, Eli. You have really interesting duo of things, film and education. He and I were talking about film early on, and I said, why do you like these films? Why are films so important in the leadership conversation?
I mean, I was naturally drawn to it because I grew up watching movies. And when I got older and I learned more about movies and matured about it, I realized that there are a lot of movies which aren't just made to entertain people or to get box office revenue, but there are those that are made to tell a story or transmit like a real human lived experience. And I realized that a lot of these experiences and stories can actually be about like social issues or areas of passion that the filmmakers are interested in. And for me, I work closely with Singapore International Film Festival, and the biggest draw for me working with Film Fest is that a lot of the movies they screen are those that we may not watch in the cinemas regularly. There are lesser known independent Southeast Asian filmmakers who are telling their own stories, talking about their own problems and struggles. And these are things which actually can be very relatable to Singaporean audiences.
So what is the film that we need to watch or make to tell the story about that part of Singapore that we don't talk about?
I think the part of Singapore that I think we really need to talk about is how we interact with and treat foreigners in our society. I think this COVID-19 pandemic has actually shed the light on a lot of animosity towards foreigners in Singapore. And this extends to migrant workers who build so many things around us, to our domestic helpers who assist us in our day-to-day life and run our households. And there needs to be more of their stories being told, because they are just as important to our lives as any other thing. Another movie, actually a movie that I saw which told the story about domestic worker was Ilo Ilo. And I think everyone should see that movie. It's one of those movies that will change how you see domestic workers, how you see Singapore, and how you see how Singaporeans interact with foreigners.
I mean, you guys have all talked about, I think film is one way, the things that we do and the campaigns we run is one way. Social media clearly has been brought up by a few of you guys as one of the big ways that young people today, young leaders today, engage the world. And one of the things I think from the older generation is like, people like to hashtag many things, right? But the question is always, are there deep awareness? What is your I guess, concept of leadership in the age of social media? How do you guys use it as a leader? What are you guys guarding against? What are you guys concerned about, given that your leadership today is not just last time just in school, right? It's actually for the world to see, and it's constantly being documented. On your side, anybody else?
Well, I think nowadays we need to differentiate what is actually too ambitious and what is not. So there's the Black Lives Matter campaign going around on social media, and many people think that through just hashtagging BLM, just reposting Instagram stories of perhaps some movement, they can actually contribute a lot. And what these people don't realize is that instead of just hashtagging BLM, could they actually do something in real life to actually contribute back to this group of people? Because nowadays, it's actually very, the marginalization of this group of people is actually very prominent, and it's very obvious. So people don't actually realize that, they need to put their words into action. So action speaks louder than words, So instead of just going on social media, the power of social media is very, is insane, don't get me wrong, but instead of just through social media, they need to go and do things.
So we talk about talk and action. There are a lot of things that leaders do, right? If you had a chance to do a do-over, we've all made mistakes, and I think we don't like to talk about the mistakes we make as leaders, right? I'm going to make you guys do that right now. If we look at the mistakes and the big, I guess, kind of boo-boos that you've made, what is the one do-over you wish you could do in your leadership journey? I'll start on that side.
I think for me, it was especially so when actually me and my committee members, we planned an internal camp this year in March. So because we started planning in November and the camp was in March, so we had quite ample time to plan. And I think at the start, we actually took things quite slowly. And I think it was a very big regret of mine to start at an extremely comfortable pace and in the end needing to rush at the end. I think as a leader, I should have been more open to the possibility of needing to redo things and making mistakes along the way. And sometimes it may not just be me as the overall in charge making mistakes, but I think I should have given more space for those under me to learn and grow through making mistakes instead of expecting everything to flow well and smooth. And also on the other hand, I also think that I could have given them more support emotionally and instead of just telling them, oh, you need to do this by this, and just checking in on them from maybe once a week, I think I could have done it more often and also more personally, instead of just focusing much more about the leadership, but focusing more on who they are as a person and how they're going to grow as a leader through these processes in school.
Megan?
Definitely agree. I think the reason why I keep preaching about sustainability is because of a very quite a story that I really regret a lot, and that's because in the past when I was a bit younger, I really like to hop onto bandwagon that I didn't know where it was gonna take me, but I just like to do that because everyone was doing that as well. And in secondary school, I started a lot of VIA projects, and thinking back now, I felt that the time that I've spent didn't really translate to much action, and it didn't really impact the people that I wanted to impact. So, for example, I did a project which is in collaboration with Yellow Ribbon Projects for former offenders. But I felt that the impact that we tried to make was not to the former offenders at all, or maybe very little only, and I didn't really put much thought and effort into that. So that was something that I really regret a lot, because I felt that this project has so much potential, but I didn't really continue with it to the end, which is why I really preach on sustainability, that if you really want to be a leader, if you really want to champion your cause, you should do it because you love it and not because other people are doing it as well.
Javen, how about you?
Well, tapping on what Nico said, yeah, I think leaders need to be very open in whenever they do things. So, at the start of this year, I also did plan a camp, and I actually thought that it was going very well because we were all dancing to Dynamite by BTS. We were all planning the campfire segment, but one thing I did not realize was, in the midst of having fun, in the midst of being ambitious, in the midst of having the end goal in our mind, whenever we plan stuff, we would want the best. We want the best of everything. So in my mind, I was planning, to live stream a campfire from the quadrangle to the parents for the parents to see. And at the end of the day, what I didn't consider was the feasibility. So we need to be open to the changes that should come, and we should be able to differentiate between being too ambitious and being just being feasible. Yeah.
I think on that note, I want to ask you guys, maybe put you guys on the spot a little bit. If you look at all the senior leaders in the world today, the leaders that, we grew up kind of like, oh my God, we're fangirls and fanboys about. What one quality do you wish they had more of as senior leaders today? What is the one thing you wish they had more of? Anybody want to start first?
For me, I think it's more of looking out for the younger generation in society, because I feel that as an older individual, many a times you're focused about societal matters that involve working age populations or even the elderly. But sometimes I feel that the young may be neglected. For example, teenagers like us. I'm not saying that there are no social infrastructures in place for us, but I think the relationship that senior leaders build between themselves and people like us can be strengthened in many various cases, because as teenagers we are struggling, many of us are still struggling to find our identities, struggling to find who we are and what we do, why we do what we do. But I think senior leaders, having gone through such experiences like we do, they can give and they can provide insights on how we can better ourselves and how we can find a track in this world that we can embark on and lead lives that we'll be happy in.
One thing I think that the world leaders should have is the value of empathy. So, like what Megan said just now, in our leadership journey, we may get sidetracked, and in this perspective, I think from a point of view, it would basically be not knowing the situation of the people around us. So one thing I notice, or one thing I feel, is that world leaders don't really perhaps they don't really take into account the marginalized group in Singapore, or the unseen and unheard, or even the people who are facing a lot of a very dire financial situation. Although on the surface it may look like there is a lot of there are stuff done for them, but I don't think it's enough. Yeah, so these people, I feel like whenever Singapore or or any other country in the world, they try to progress forward, we have to take into account these people, because at the end of the day, whether our country will progress or not, it basically depends on that group of people. So I think we need to take the so-called marginalized group as serious as we take our exams, or a very important occasion or something. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Falin.
I think on that note, like what Nicole has said also, I think it's a lot about inclusivity, and a lot of the times we often see senior leaders as tall and mighty people, and we feel very distant from them as individuals on the ground, commoners. And I feel like something that can be improved is the relationship between senior leaders and the rest of the population. I think it's also very evident in our community currently also. There are also many ministers who take it to the ground and also engage in activities, for example, with many of the people in their district or community. And I think that is something that senior leaders can also adopt, and hopefully everyone in a country or a community can also become more integrated and have better relations with one another, communicate better as well.
I mean, for me, it's less red tape. I mean, there are so many times when people our age, like youth, they want to start a project, whether it's in school or in the community, and obviously you can't avoid dealing with like the authorities, the governing bodies, the senior leaders, and at least from my experience, there's a lot of like bureaucracy and red tape and like approvals they have to go through, which can slow down the entire process, and it can end up being like a slog, because what started out as something like of an area of passion, something that you want to tackle, has now become something where you need to like churn out multiple reports on just to get it approved. And to me, I think the key is about like flexibility. Senior leaders can be more flexible in how they would deal with, say, younger leaders' ideas or plans. Then I think that the relationship between younger and senior leaders and the projects and plans that they do together can be better.
I think the pandemic has really given us an opportunity, right, to kind of see red tape at its best and flexibility at its best as well. How has the pandemic changed you as a leader? How have your leadership journey have to be, I guess, tweaked and massaged to better fit a pandemic world that we live in?
Actually, at the start, before the pandemic, I used to think that leadership is something that can only be done if you have a title. Let's say you have a badge or you have a tie, because I think in our society, especially since primary school, you have class monitors with their badges, prefects with their ties. So naturally, I thought, oh, okay, so I need a tie to serve. But then I think in the pandemic, things were very different, especially during circuit breaker. Even though I'm a prefect, there was no more wearing of ties in the morning, no more doing your morning duties. And it really got me reflecting on why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think that in a pandemic world, it gives a lot of opportunities for you to discover yourself as a leader. For example, during the circuit breaker period also, I started reaching out to primary school children from who are linguistically weaker in terms of their studies, and I guided them through Zoom on reading of storybooks, because they were primary 6 students, so PSLE was coming, and especially with the COVID stress, I think things were very tough for them also. So I thought, why not, as a person who had experienced PSLE and who may be able to give them a bit of advice, so why not I do so? So I think during the pandemic, I became a more flexible leader, a leader who doesn't only serve under given circumstances, but a leader who seeks opportunities to serve instead.
I think a lot of it for me is about creativity, especially during restricted times where physical contact is not really allowed per se. And for me, especially in my activities in Interact Club, when we engage our beneficiaries, we often use technology like Zoom and to engage the elderly and conduct activities with them. And this actually got me learning a lot more about my knowledge about technology and how to navigate this devices and sound and audio visuals to be able to still have the same effect of letting the elderly feel like they are welcome. And I think it's very important that we, in the age of the pandemic, we are still adaptable and we still try to learn and adopt new techniques in terms of serving the community so that we don't let our passions die. Yeah.
So how does pandemic changed you?
I mean, you mentioned earlier the red tape has gotten in the way of things. Getting plans approved with SMM in mind is a nightmare. In CJ, we have this concert. It's like a tradition in CJ called Rockefeller. But because of the pandemic, we couldn't hold it. And this year, we almost got to the point we could hold it. But because of all the SMM restrictions and it changing so much, so fast, the school management decided that we shouldn't go ahead with plans, which was painful to go through, of course, but it had given us perhaps greater insight into how we can plan things around the pandemic to work with our circumstances.
Definitely. I think a very practical challenge that we all face, as what Eli mentioned, is the SMM. So because of that, I feel that for the pandemic, we have to really step out of our comfort zones, which is what I'm not very comfortable with. So for SMM, for friends and after training, we would just huddle around together. But because as a leader, you can't afford with public taking pictures of your school and sending and all that. So you really have to tell them to separate, and it's very difficult to separate them. You have to physically go and cut a line between them. Yeah, so I think that was especially difficult for me because it was very difficult to talk to your teammates like that, because I felt that we are all the same peers. Who am I to instruct you to do this? But I think for the pandemic, it really told me that, you really have to draw a line between leadership as well as friends, and that in this type of situation where law is concerned, you really have to draw the line and say that SMM is in place. You have to split into groups of 5 or 8. Yeah.
You guys?
Can I just say, Megan, the peer pressure is really real. Yeah.
Pressure is real, people.
Yeah. I don't even know where to start. I think as I mentioned just now, one thing I've learned is basically empathy. So before the whole circuit breaker thing, before the whole all the SMM measures came in and everything, I think I was a very focus-driven leader. In a sense, I would just try to overcome every single step to actually get to the end goal. But I didn't really care about the people around me. But what this pandemic has brought upon is that I'm really able to see from a different point of view. So for example, the migrant workers, they were saying that Singapore has a gold class response to COVID-19, but we all didn't notice the migrant workers and their living condition. So that really taught us a lesson in the sense that we need to change our perspective, and this has taught me to look from my teammates and team members' perspective and really go and do stuff. Yeah.
I'm really excited to hear these answers because, especially if I just kind of future pace another 5 to 10 years, because flexibility, creativity, technologically savvy, adaptable, great new toolkit, empathetic, savvy, gritty, brave, courageous. These are words that I keep coming up today. And I'm really excited because you see young leaders today, and in 10 years, these young leaders are going to be the leaders of Singapore tomorrow, and they're going to take with them all these lessons that they have, gleaned from living in this extraordinary time. And I think it's wonderful. I have one last question for each of you. One of the things that you guys talk about constantly is having this team and having this group of friends that you have to call on, right? Whether it's in sports, in your council, or even in your outside passion projects. You've mentioned this team. How can leaders today support other leaders? How can we better be assets to our fellow leaders today?
I think bringing in the idea of vulnerability again, I think we as leaders, first and foremost, although we may be in charge, we need to position ourselves in a place where we can be open with our feelings and we can let other people know about our feelings and not just keep it on to ourselves. Because I think sometimes when we think of leaders, we think of I need to look up to them all the time, and they are a solid, firm rock. But sometimes I think besides the stability, we need to find a support group there where we can share and open up ourselves to, because I think as a leader, confidence is not something that you always have all the time. And there are times where you feel very bad as a person or very nasty inside, like, why did I do this to them? Or why did my plans go this way? But sometimes I think having a listening ear or even providing a listening ear to others really makes a lot of difference, because you feel reassured and you feel that, oh, someone out there is actually feeling the same way as I do. And I think when we support each other and create such support systems in place, we feel more connected to other people in society as well. And we feel it's sort of radiating love and also radiating hope, in a sense that all hope is not lost. And there are people who can help you and bring you up, and not that you always need to be the one to lift others up.
Yep, definitely agree with Nicole, I think. So I think for leaders, how we can support each other is to acknowledge that all of us are leaders in our different fields. I think that's what Nicole rightly pointed out earlier, is that leaders do not come with badges these days, and that it's not like if you have a suit or if you have a tie then you are a leader. So I think we have to acknowledge that all of us can be leaders, we have the potential to be leaders, and we are leaders in our different fields, right? And because of that, we don't put leaders up on the pedestal and rather put leaders into our conversations in our life, so that, like, I feel that it's quite rare for us to have conversations like this in school. So I hope that for us leaders to support each other, we should bring this type of conversations like in friend groups in school, and just talking like, hey, how do you lead this team? Like, for example, if you face a challenge in your CCA, then you can ask your friend, oh, how do you go about solving this matter, right? As long as we put leadership or conversations about leaders in a not on a pedestal, but in a very friendly and very inclusive way of conversations, I think we are able to support each other as long as we break these barriers down.
Well, one thing I think, what's stopping leaders from, supporting each other is basically our egos. Often the time, I think people put their egos before their logic, so they don't really think about, their actions. They don't really think about, why they reject this. So perhaps it could be like, oh, I don't like you, I'm going to reject whatever ideas you propose. So I'm basically putting my ego before my logic. But could it be possible that if I took a step back and think about it, the idea was actually better than mine? Yeah. So often the times, I think leaders would actually need to put down their egos and not work in silos.
And I think on the note of vulnerability, like what Nicole said also, I think there's also a need to know how we can approach other people in terms of love language, for example. And I think I've done this test before. There are categories such as gift giving and acts of service. And I think these are some ways that we can use to better approach other people. We can ask others what is their love language and what our own love language is. And I think this is a way we can connect with others better and be able to approach them on the topic of vulnerability, for example. And perhaps empathize with them better, because we actually know how what ways these people are more comfortable with talking, and yeah.
I think one of the best things that I've heard from today is this movement of leadership, a new concept of leadership that's, I think, coming up as something that's more important. I think for many years we have always looked at project portfolio, right? You showcase, you write your resume, this is what I've achieved and all of that. And I think with young leaders like you guys and social media and the new way of how the pandemic has forced us, I think we're moving into a time of what we call a portfolio. A process portfolio, where we kind of look at the process, and there is no, oh, look, you mucked up here or you screwed up there. All of this is part of the conversation about leadership, about being vulnerable, about sharing, about collaboration, about the idea of putting our ego aside. I think these are conversations that we don't traditionally have in leadership, and I'm so pleased that you guys are with me today to kind of share these thoughts, because for me, youth leadership is exciting, because these young people truly are, going to do wonderful things in the future. I congratulate all my guests today, all 10 of you, for being finalists in this year's Young Leaders award, and I look forward to all the wonderful things and the wonderful people that you'll impact in your lives. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the 2 panels. If you have any questions, please feel free to write in. If you have any queries about leadership, have a think about it. I think our panelists today have given us wonderful insights and things to chew on. I know for sure I'm going back to think about how I can rethink leadership, and I hope you do too. Thank you.
And now is the moment that we have all been waiting for, the results of the Young Leader Award 2021. The 10 finalists of this year's award were selected on the basis of their personal involvement in community service, their propensity to engage others in creating social impact, their deep conviction and passion for a cause they believe in, their ability to lead teams and diverse groups of people, as well as their strong sense of self-leadership and values-driven leadership. Before we proceed with the results, I would like to invite the Chief Executive Officer of Halogen Foundation, Ms. Ivy C., up on stage to share a few words. Ms. Ivy C., please.
A very good morning, Deputy Prime Minister Mr. Heng Swee Keat. Good morning to our board directors, Mr. Martin Tan, Mr. Bill Petfield. You've seen us over a very long journey. It's very special. I'm getting a bit emotional, sorry. Distinguished guests who are family and friends of our National Young Leader Award finalists, very good morning. As well as to the audience there, thank you for dialing in. It's a really special day. Really appreciate Deputy Prime Minister's time to just grace our occasion. On our way up, I was just sharing that I happened to be a events executive when the award was first launched. Never been a person who thought a lot about history and journeys, but having spent the past 8 years watching young people step forward, do something for their community, it's been very humbling. Something that I shared with Sherry when she moderated the panel earlier this month was that it's actually every Young Leader Award round where we get to speak to these young people that I get reminded of why we're doing what we're doing. And very humbled because through the stories of these young people, we realize our future is in good hands because we have young people who are really passionate to want to make change, are really willing to stake their time and their hands and their effort and sweat and tears into making the world a better place. And I think that really just embodies how even Halogen exists and what we seek to be able to do. So thank you very much for just coming here today because this is actually a celebration of young people, not just the award winners. I don't think we always advocate about awards being an accolade that you could flesh out and a CV that you can build. But at the same time, I think having them step forward and being able to showcase these stories really allow them to inspire their peers to step forward. Some of them have come forward for the award because they've heard their senior stories, and that's how they have decided that, yeah, I want to be someone like that. The National Young Leader Award was created as a platform to showcase stories of young people. And one thing that we've always been very enraptured by is the idea of everyday leaders and everyday leadership. Wherever you are, regardless of title, regardless of your academic backgrounds, your achievements, you are able to have a sphere of influence to those around you. And if you steward that well and you exercise positive actions and words that can sow a positive ripple, that's what leadership is really all about. It's been very humbling. We started by storytelling, but I must say this batch of finalists every year as we get to work with them, they stun us. The award has been a platform that now is evolved. We've looked a lot at catalyzing projects this year. And every single one of them, if you've been following our IG stories on Halogen SG, they have shown the actual projects that they've embarked on. And these for young people who are 15 to 19, juggling their academic pursuits, their community, CCAs, and all that, I think it's actually remarkable. What was mentioned also that as part of this community that we're building, we recognize change making is not easy. It's not just about having a passion for something and then just stepping forward, do a project, and then end there. It's a lifelong journey. And that's why you're here too. And Halogen is here too because we really want to be able to build a community. There's a mention of the Halogen Young Leader Fellowship. We do have a very outstanding pool of young people who are, like the finalists themselves, actively making a positive contribution to their spheres. And we were really excited to welcome the 10 finalists to join the fellowship this year. And Halogen's commitment is to be able to provide the kind of resources, the kind of support, the kind of developmental opportunities, so that they can actually take their talents and gifts and get amplified it, right? And all these take time. So for those of you in the room, and for those of you dialing in, appeal to all the adults who are here today. You've taken time off to really celebrate the young people that you see and the change that they're making in their community. But I hope that you will also join us as our community because they can't do it alone. And I think a lot of our work is hoping that we would pay it forward to them to provide them resources, support, and then when time to come, they will actually pay it forward to the next generation as well. And those are the little seeds that we really hope to be able to catalyze. Thank you very much once again for being part of this journey. And I really am very excited for what will come next. So if I can just wrap up with getting everybody to just congratulate the finalists this evening. Thank you so much for stepping forward and serving. We look forward to many more projects that will come from here.
Thank you very much, Missy. May I please invite you to remain on stage? And to present the awards, may I please invite our guest of honor, DPM Heng, to join Missy up on stage, please. Ladies and gentlemen, these are our winners of the National Young Leader Award 2021. In no particular order, first up we have Nicole Sim Yen Ging. Next up, we have Elvis Lim Wei Yao. Next up, we have Ray and Yap. And finally, Han Yun Xuan. Congratulations to all 5 winners of our National Young Leader Award 2021. May I please invite all winners to come back on stage for a safe distance group photograph, please. Applause for our winners. Now, making it to the top 10 is not an easy feat at all. And in celebrating their achievements, here are the finalists of our National Young Leader Award 2021. In no particular order, Lim Kai Chun, Adam Eli Stewart. Berlin Chua Pei Juan. Javen Lam. And finally, Megan Ho Lee Jen. Congratulations to all of you. May I please invite you to come back on stage for a safe distance distance. A round of applause for our finalists. In gratitude for our guest of honor, GPM King Kiat, we would like to present a token of appreciation to you for gracing our event and spending time with our young leaders. Thank you very much, sir. May I also invite our Halogen Foundation board directors to join us on stage for a group photograph. Thank you, DPMK, Nikki, and Halogen Foundation directors. I hope you've enjoyed watching and being part of our ceremony. If you are inspired by the stories and exceptionalism of our young leaders today, or if you feel like you would like to be involved in this journey of self-discovery and leadership development, join us for next year's National Young Leader Award. Nominations and registrations open in January 2022, and who knows, you might be up on this stage next year. Congratulations once again to all of our winners and finalists, and please stay in touch with us at Halogen Foundation through our social media channels. It has been an absolute blast being your host for today. Thank you for being a great audience. My name is Glenda, wishing you an awesome weekend ahead. Thank you and stay safe.